And welcome back to another episode of the Double Doing Podcast. My name is Brenden D. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate the podcast and review the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. It would also be greatly appreciated. Happy Family Day and President's Day. Family Day in Canada, President's Day in America to all who are celebrating. I am joined by Thomas Petersen, who is fresh off a trip from Philadelphia. What's going on?
What's up, man?
How
Yeah,
was
that
your trip?
wasn't the that was the no, that wasn't the trip that we hoped it was going to be.
Yeah.
But
How long
it
were
was
you
a
there
trip.
for? When did you fly home?
I was there for 5 days.
Okay, so how long? So, what did you fly home on Wednesday after the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what did you get up to in those days that you were there?
Well, mostly I watched some Sixers.
Did you go to
Wandered
a game?
around town.
Did you go
Yeah,
to a
yeah, yeah.
game?
So Sixers against Rockets, I believe it was.
Nice.
Yeah, it was all right. For me, it was more like standing next to the link again because that's been too long. So like those are like getting back there, standing right next to that massive stadium. You're like, yeah, I got to get back here soon and watch some games.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so that was pretty good to get because kind of get that wake up call that just shit. I need to get back here soon. To actually watch some live games because last time I was there in 18 was for the Super Bowl as well. So it's been a while since I actually watched some games in Philly. Yeah, hung out with the guys from Bell and the Birdmans, Quinn, John Barger, Taylor Cordatis. That was super fun seeing the way like those guys work and what they have going on. Stayed with Vince and his wonderful girlfriend as well. Super warm-hearted people. So that was all good. And yeah, ate a ton of food.
Nice. Yeah, any cheesesteaks?
I did not have cheesesteaks this time because last time I was there, I was like on the cheesesteak tour.
Yeah.
And like cheesesteaks are fine. It's not my favorite type of food to eat. Like there's so much more that I'd rather eat in Philly. Like I think there's like a bunch of super underrated restaurants around. So yeah, I'd much rather go around those places. But yeah, I did the whole cheesesteak tour last time.
I've eaten two cheesesteaks when I've been to Philly. I've done D'Alessandro's and Jim's. D'Alessandro's, in my opinion, just clears the water out of any cheesesteak I've had there. I've only had two, so I don't know if I'm wrong here. But D'Alessandro's was just like, wow, like money in the bank. So
Yeah, that was pretty good as well.
yeah.
Probably my
Um,
favorite as well.
so how was the game? I guess we're going to talk about the Super Bowl at the end. We're going to jump into defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator openings for the Eagles on this episode. We're going to touch on free agency a little bit later because, of course, the coordinator stuff is the hot topic. But I just want to know, how was the game for you? Like, where did you watch it? How did you feel after they lost? Give me the details.
So I watched it with all the guys from Bell and the Bird and a couple of friends that flew in from Denmark as well that I know personally. So yeah, we watched the game at Vince's and had the whole setup for the Bell and the Birdman show there. So that was fun.
So were you on
Um,
the mic right when they lost? Like, were you doing like a recap show?
yeah, we did. Yeah. I think we felt, especially John Barcher and I, we were surprisingly calm about it right after. Um, I think I wasn't really that down on the whole thing right after. It kind of snuck up on me as the days went by and
Yeah.
as the whole mood in Philly, like on game day and on the day before, like on Saturday when I arrived, everything was green in the entire city. And you had the huge Eagles banner at the art museum. Like there would literally not be a single person in a whole restaurant that was not wearing Eagles gear. Like it was everywhere. It was just so contaminating how the whole vibe was around the city. And then the day after, everything was gone. Everything was taken down from the streets. And like you saw a bird's cap here and there, but other than that, it was just way back to normal. And you just kind of more realize how close it was to that big. Like
Yeah.
if they won, the whole city would have freaking erupted.
Yeah.
And it just felt like um, as more as the days kind of went by, and as I was flying back, I just sat there and I kind of thought, like, I really thought this was that season. Like, it just felt like such a special season. Everything was pointing in the direction of a Super Bowl win. Like every single logical thing I could think of, and every illogical. Like no matter the rationale, like I had such a good feeling about the game, and I went there thinking this can't go wrong. And I felt that throughout the game as well while I was watching it, that this is going to be fine. Yeah.
The two things that kept kind of going into my head leading up to the game was Patrick Mahomes is going to score 30 points, and I said it on every podcast. I knew the Eagles defense wasn't going to stop the offense. I didn't know it was going to be that bad though. Like I knew the Chiefs were going to get their points. I knew they were going to score 30 points, and they did. But I always thought the Eagles defense would get a stop, right? They would do what they did in 2017 or 20 or whatever you want to call it, 2018, when they got the strip sack. Like I thought that play was going to come and it just never did. And then the one thing that I didn't really think a lot about, and I kind of regret not maybe putting more emphasis onto this, was the Andy Reid versus Gannon mismatch in the coaching aspect of things. I was a little more higher on Gannon as the season went on. I still was never a big Jonathan Gannon guy. I think you were in the same boat. We always thought this defense probably played under his talent. Never thought Gannon should have been fired or anything like that. But I thought Gannon would have put up a better fight against Andy Reid, and that was something I wish I kind of maybe put more emphasis into as the weeks went, or as the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, and it kind of just caught me off guard a little bit. So those two things happened, and the Chiefs won, right? Though when you have the best coach in the world, arguably the best play call in the world, and the best quarterback in the world, when they're on their game.
But also for like, I just didn't anticipate the field being such a massive story.
Yeah.
Like there are so many weird things about it where you're like, after the game, you're sitting there going, how could I have predicted this? Like, nope, and it was unfortunate. Like it doesn't even go towards like whether or not the Eagles should have won. It was more like this had the makings of a Super Bowl classic, like one of the best Super Bowls we've ever watched.
The amount of people that tell me like, "Oh, it was such a good game." It's like, you were the neutral fan.
What could have been? I mean, they deserved a field that was actually able to be played on. This historic pass rushing unit got totally negated by a field that wasn't able to be played on. And going back at it, like you saw that during the game, going back at it, watching the offense, like remember the Eagles tried to run that inside breaking screen for Dallas Goedert 3 times, and all 3 times he got tackled short. Well, why did he do it? Because he tripped on each and every one of them. He's like decided to go a little bit out and then comes in. As soon as he cut on all three occasions, he tripped and fell, and that's why he caught the ball almost lying down immediately. So it's it's in every single aspect of the game. Aside Pacheco had like 3 runs that would have been massive gains, but he trips.
Yeah,
and it's super. That's unfortunate. And then the last thing that holding call on Bradbury, like you can't be mad at the holding call, but you can be mad about how this thing ended. Like Hurts having 2 minutes to go down the field and potentially win the game would be such a classic, and it ends on a holding call and a couple of basically kneel downs in the form of runs that are supposed to not be scoring plays, and it just kills the whole. Like they killed the whole vibe of the game. Yeah.
It was funny. There was something in my brain when that ball was overthrown. I knew a flag was coming. Like I could sense it. Like it's almost like I knew there was dread coming. When Jalen Hurts ran that 2-point conversion, I said to my mom, "The Eagles aren't getting the ball back." I knew they weren't going to do it. They weren't getting a stop all game. And Under talked about play in this game. I think we're doing the Super Bowl talk now. Fuck the end. We'll just get it over.
Fuck
with.
It.
Yeah. And Under talked about play. It was 2nd and 8. Okay, I think the Chiefs were at their 35-yard line. I think there was 3 minutes left. They let Travis Kelce have a free release off the line. Quick pass to him. It's 3rd and 1 within a snap of a finger. Like the amount of just free releases that the Chiefs had, just amount of easy buttons that they were able to hit all game. Like then the next run was Isaiah Pacheco running 40 yards down the field, and that was the game. Like we spoke on the podcast 2 weeks before the fact that they need to have someone up in Travis Kelce's grill all game, and they never did. It was constant free releases. The Chiefs were able to run the routes however they wanted to. Um, and I agree with the holding call. I think it was probably like it was a penalty, but not in that situation.
Sure, it was a penalty. Yeah, 100% it was a penalty.
Fucking keep the flag in your pocket in that situation. There was an illegal hands to the face on Josh Sweat on the exact same play. Quez Watkins was pass interfered with on his drop, I believe, a little bit. There were so many dinky dunky calls like that. And that refereeing crew like called the least amount of defensive holdings the entire NFL. And then they decided to call a defensive holding in that situation. I don't know. It was and the field thing is too. Another thing with the field, like the Chiefs get their pressure. They got their pressure in that game from linebacker blitzes, cornerback blitzes, safety blitzes, where you're not cutting, you're not trying to beat guys. The Eagles' defensive line was at a huge disadvantage because that's where they get their sacks from, right? They get their sacks from those guys. And I know you're rubbing your forehead right now, and you're upset. I know we're bringing up old shit, but I haven't got my chance to get that off my chest yet.
No, and that was the reaction while I was watching the game and like the days after. When I was sat down over the course of this weekend and today and watched the whole thing again, there's absolutely no way the Eagles were winning this game.
No, the Chiefs, they got outplayed. I love.
No, they didn't get outplayed. They got significantly outcoached.
Yeah, but the Chiefs were the better team in this game. From coaching, I think you have to put it all into a bubble. Like the coaching and the players together take it up. Like there's no blame in the refs, there's no blame in the field, in my opinion. Like the Chiefs.
When you look at coaching staff, no. When you look at system, offensive, defensive system, the only reason the Eagles team were in this and the Eagles offense managed to put up 35 points is solely due to the fact of Jalen Hurts.
Oh, he was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It's unfucking believable how dysfunctional the offense was throughout the course of this game. 5 plays where the Chiefs have 7 guys at the line of scrimmage and cornerback sneaking up to the line. You run a play with a little extra protection, but 3 guys in pass routes or run route in routes where not a single one of them are looking back within 2 seconds. Like, what the hell are we doing here? Didn't we learn from this throughout the entire course of the season? Rollouts from Jalen Hurts where there are nobody even open, where there's nobody even to throw to at that point. An RPO where Hurts keeps the ball himself correctly, comes out. The only guy he's even able to throw to is A.J. Brown, who's running sort of a corner, not really, throws the ball away. Stuff like that happened over the entire course of the season where you can go, well, yeah, kind of new to the system, Shane Steichen, blah, blah, blah. It's the freaking Super Bowl, 3rd and 2. You don't run 3 deep routes. You freaking run the ball or you have some sort of quick concept. Like the Zach Pascal 3rd down conversion that they early in the game, super early, they had pressure right up. Like you said, they keep blitzing the linebackers or at least blitz slot cornerbacks right off the edge. Jalen Hurts rolls out of it. He finds Zach Pascal. That play should not have been happening. No quarterback in the NFL makes that play. Not Patrick Mahomes, not Justin Herbert, nobody except for Jalen Hurts. He rolls out of there. He gets out of the pressure. He finds Zach Pascal. The only reason they were in this game is because of Jalen Hurts. His running ability, his ability to escape pressure, and just happened to have the highest passing grade of any single player in a Super Bowl ever. And you may say what you want about PFF. I don't care. They're usually pretty on point with this shit. You go back, you watch that, go to my Twitter page, watch the slow cut up of Jalen Hurts passes in this game. They're unbelievable. And that's the thing. When you come out of this game, this team was too damn young going against Andy Reid. Andy Reid is probably the best coach in NFL history. We can almost by certain say that at this point.
Top 3 head coach. I think that win solidifies him top 3 head coach in NFL history.
Let's say top 3.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. Jonathan Gannon showed zero ability to adjust to anything. We know that he's not great at adjusting plays. That's what it is. Shane Steichen did 0 favors to Jalen Hurts. And whether that's a product of a young quarterback in a new system and you don't really have had time throughout the season to implement audibles and really like Jalen Hurts having this repertoire of audible plays that he can call out there, or whether it's just bad like preparation. Maybe, but you had to have that in order to win this game. And in spite of that, Jalen Hurts produced so much. In spite of running 3 running backs that couldn't get shit going, Miles Sanders couldn't convert a 3rd down and 2 to save his life.
He was awful. Miles
He
Sanders
was
was so bad in
awful.
that game. The first run, like there's a whole rate. All he had to do was cut up behind on the tackle pull, and he decides to take it outside and then fumbles it.
And the fake QB sneak where they pitch it out to Miles Sanders. You have three blockers right in front of him. He just loses flat out 1-on-1 against Nick Bolton right at the line to gain. And they have to you want to know why I kind of like the fact that they're taking away this push tuck, whatever the hell we're going to call this QB sneak thing with Jalen Hurts. You know why they had to do that? Because they don't have a running back that can convert the short downs. That's why they're in 4th and short all the time. Ugh. If there's something to take away from this game, it's that they need to invest in a running back that can actually run behind this offensive line. Ken Gainwell was fine. He's not a feature. He's not that guy who's just going to wow you and make super explosive plays all the time. You can't rely on Ken Gainwell in these situations. Obviously, they didn't trust him. Otherwise, they would have been running it more of these 3rd down and short situations. Jalen Hurts is a freaking superstar who carried the entire team with bad offensive line performance, a bad running back performance, and a shitty defense. And they put up 35 and almost won the Super Bowl. That's where I'm at. That's the thing we need to go with looking forward.
I think an underrated aspect of this game was how bad the Chiefs or how bad the Eagles ran the ball with their running backs.
That was terrible.
Kenneth Gainwell, 7 carries, 21 yards. Miles Sanders, 7 carries, 16 yards. Boston Scott, 3 carries, 8 yards. Jalen Hurts was their best running back, was their best passer. Jalen Hurts was the best player on the field in the game on both teams, both sides.
He's their power back.
Yeah.
He's their yeah. And you can go with kind of like a cliche and say, well, you got to put the ball in your best hands player. Well, yeah, but it would be kind of nice to have like somebody else that you could rely on in those situations.
What? So you didn't think Shane Steichen called a good game? Like the 3rd and 2, I hated. I hated that play call. It didn't make any sense. Like especially when I saw it from the all 22 the next day. AJ Brown was kind of running wide open down the middle, but of course they didn't block the pressure on the right side. It was if you're gonna run that play, go for it. Like go for the 4th and 2 there. I hated that punt call. I go back to that drive. I keep thinking back. There was no need if the Chiefs were going to score a touchdown, there was no need to punt the ball. And of course they got the punt return and that affects things, but the Eagles defense was not stopping them. You had to put points on the board there. Once Kadarius Toney returned that punt, it was game over. And of course, but Nick Sirianni, like he said, he had this comment saying 32 coaches wouldn't punt there. I don't know about that. You were going for those situations all year. You did it in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers. You did it at the 37-yard line. This was at the 32. It wasn't that big. It was 5-yard difference. Yeah. I don't know.
He didn't call a good game if like on 3rd and 10 where the Eagles go with their second field goal to go up 27-21. On 3rd and 10, they call a drag for Kenny Gainwell where Dallas Goedert's supposed to go from the opposite side into the middle and kind of create some chaos for Kenny Gainwell to get the ball over the middle and try to run as much as possible. He gains 5 yards. So what's the plan there? You go with a running back draw, like a running back drag across the middle to gain 10? Or are we going with the running back draw to gain 5 and try to go for it afterwards on 4th and 5? Like, is that what we're trying to do?
Was Gainwell the primary target on that round?
Yeah, he was. Dallas Goedert's only job there is to go across the middle. He kind of he just stands and kind of shields away things, and then he kind of moves away when the linebacker tries to go for him. Nick Bolton, not even near Dallas Goedert. He just shoots right past him, makes the tackle. It's 4th and 5. So what are we doing there? Are we going to be aggressive and try to get the 3rd and 10 conversion, or are we going to go like slightly aggressive and try to pick up 5 yards and then go for it on 4th and 5 because we know that we can't go up by 6 points because Patrick Mahomes is likely going to score, right? So and the 3rd and 2, are we taking a deep shot down the field here with 3 guys in max protection because we know that we're going to try to go for the 4th and 2 afterwards? Because otherwise, 3rd and 2 doesn't make any freaking sense. If you're not trying to, if you're trying to get a big play, fine. But if you don't get it, have a freaking plan afterwards. Otherwise, call a play that is easier to execute and pick up a first down and then go from there. Mm-hmm. So it may have been a well-called game, but it wasn't in sync with whatever Nick Sirianni wanted to do from a strategic standpoint on the drive. And I don't know if that's Shane. I don't know if it's Nick. All I know is that Shane has the play card, and it was fucking stupid in multiple drives throughout the game.
Yeah, I thought I like the QB run kind of style that Shane Steichen, like he put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands, and when Hurts fumbled, the next play he went back with a QB run. Like I liked how he kept confidence in him. Yeah. Shane Steichen, in my opinion, called since he took over as a play caller, has been a great play caller for the Eagles. There's a bunch of stuff I can nitpick, but overall,
overall,
probably top 7, top 10 play caller in the NFL. And I think the Eagles are going to miss him more than, of course, they'll miss Jonathan Gannon just from the play calling aspect. But
Yeah, I don't. Just to kind of wrap that up, and we'll get into more in terms of coordinator talk and all this. We can both agree, you and I, that the next step for Jalen Hurts, we know everything in play, like everything from snap to whistle, he does well. He's shown he does that. So the thing now is pre-snap reading a defense, getting out of plays, audibling, like taking full control of an offense. Ideally, you'd like Jalen Hurts to be that Tom Brady type style player where you don't really need an offensive coordinator as much because you like him to have full control of the offense and call what he sees. And
like
I don't,
Peyton Manning-esque.
Yeah, Peyton Manning-esque, like that mental part of the game, that pre-snap part of the game. And I don't think there's a better. I don't think there's probably not a better coach right now in the NFL to know where Jalen's mind is at and how far he is in that progression than Brian Johnson, who probably knows him better than anybody else, and kind of take it from there. So I don't know if he's going to be missed. I think Shane was good for Jalen, but he's not it moving forward. I think it was perfectly fine with the change of coordinator on the offensive side. And defensive too.
Yeah, well said. Okay, I don't think I have anything left on the Super Bowl. I think the best, like, put an end to it. I think the was like the worst way to go out with a penalty like that, because there was no doubt in my mind that if the Eagles get the ball back, Jalen Hurts is either putting a field goal on the board and more likely a touchdown on the board.
Yeah,
like with the way he was playing. Last thing is too, I hate the transition from football to other sports, because basically how my life works is like I'm an Eagles fan, they break my heart. I'm a Leafs fan, they end up breaking my heart. The Raptors break my heart. Like, that's just the way my life is, and it's just a constant cycle of being disappointed by sports teams. The Leafs just made a big trade for Ryan O'Reilly.
Seasonal disappointment.
Yeah, it's like every single and the transition from Eagles to the Leafs is the worst, because like the Leafs are already midway through the season. And then like I always tell myself halfway through the Leafs season, like, I'm not going to get invested in this team like I always do, because it's just been 5 years of heartbreak. And then they just made a big trade for Ryan O'Reilly. I know you're not a hockey guy. I'm probably speaking mumbo jumbo to you.
No idea who it is.
But, yeah. But now like I'm all in on the Leafs again, and I just know in April or May I'm going to get my heart broken again. So that's just, my life is just a constant cycle of sports teams breaking my damn heart.
But then again, at least you get like some kind of sports thing that you buy into and that you can follow, like, so it doesn't you don't have your heart broken and then 6 months later a season starts.
Well, the Leafs are because I'm a huge Leaf fan. Like, Leafs and Eagles are my two biggest fandoms. And then the Jays would be third. I guess the Jays and Raptors are both third and fourth. But the Jays, like, the thing with baseball season is, like, if they're not in it after like 60 games, you know the season's already over. So the summer just drags on. Like, the months of May, June, July, August, like, there's zero football really going on, right? Like, there's no offseason stuff to look forward to. So I hope the Jays are in it. But speaking of offseason, the Eagles offseason has begun. Let's put the Super Bowl to bed. Both coordinators are out the door. Jonathan Gannon took the head coaching job for the Arizona Cardinals. Shane Steichen took the head coaching job for the Indianapolis.
He was left in Arizona. Didn't even get back on the plane.
I would love to be a fly on the wall with how he was thinking during the Gannon process after. I want to know, do you buy what Gannon said, that they offered to pay him more money to stay in Philly? Did you read Peter King's article today?
Yeah, I read it.
What did you think of that? What did you think of that article?
I think it's considerable that Howie had a very clear hand in Gannon getting his interview with Arizona right after the game.
Interesting. Okay. So you think he was like pushing him out of the door?
I don't know if he pushed him out. I don't think he would have had anything against Gannon coming back simply for the continuity of having a guy who knows the defense. I don't know. I just don't know how, if you're Howie, who we know is as forward thinking as anyone in the NFL, can look at that performance and go, like, I think Howie's smart enough to understand how the Eagles were in this game, for example, and just looking back on the matchups they've played against above average quarterbacks and what the defenses look like. Yeah, I think he's smart enough to I think we'll be fine.
I think the Eagles are going to be just fine. And then,
Yeah.
you know what? The other thing is too, like if they did, let's say they did bring Gannon back, right? I wouldn't have fired him. Like I'm not a Gannon fan, clearly.
No.
I wouldn't have canned him. Like I wouldn't have fired him. But him leaving, in my opinion, is like better than him not being fired because it adds some juice to the Eagles' offseason a little bit, right? Like, don't you feel better with him out the door?
Yeah.
Right. Like I feel like okay, there's something to look forward to because I don't think they're going to have the talent level on the defensive side of the ball that they had last year. Like there's going to be changes, right? There's going to be some youth coming in with Jordan Davis and Kobe Dean playing more snaps. We're likely looking at a young cornerback coming in.
There's going to be rookies contributing significantly.
Exactly, yeah. So like the talent level isn't going to be there. So the only other aspect to kind of improve your defense, I still think they can have maybe a top 6 DVOA defense like they did last year or better. But the only way to do that is schematically, right? And we've already seen Gannon with the peak of the talent level. So if it gets worse, then we're just going to have a mediocre defense, right? Like I think bringing in a fresh face, a new mind to this defense kind of just adds a little more excitement, a little more juice for Eagles fans and just the team in general.
Yeah, I agree. And also, the stats are against us on this one, Brenton. I mean, the stats should say that Jonathan did a heck of a job in Philly, and of the sack records and all that. I just don't see it. I see individual player performances beating guys on generic pass rush schemes. Like I don't see, and there's a reason Hassan Reddick has. If you follow Brenden Thorn on Inside the Trenches, he makes up like which players sacks comes on beating an offensive lineman and which comes from like schematic sacks like stunts on the defensive line or coverage sacks and stuff like this. Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, all
quality sacks, right?
Yeah, exactly. Quality of sacks and if they're actually beating somebody to get to that point.
Reddick
Eagles defensive linemen are all in the top percentage of the amount of their sacks that comes off beating a player.
And
so
that translates. That translates to whatever defensive coordinator it is.
It doesn't matter whoever is like because that just means you have guys that can beat offensive linemen and get production. So you can't attribute 4-man pressure sacks to a coach. Like that doesn't work that way. You're not blitzing anything. You're not stunting anything. You're not doing anything in particular. Of course, you can have an exotic a coverage scheme behind it, but that wasn't like it's the most generic cover 2, cover 1 thing I've ever seen in my life. So it's not like that has no role in it, and the continuous lack of adapting to whatever the offense is throwing at you, like you mentioned this game here, like blitzing linebackers up the middle. If your defensive ends can't get the edge on, and that's their primary thing that they need to do, probably stop and adjust to it. And so nothing of that.
The Eagles brought linebacker pressures at the least amount of rate in the 2022 NFL season by any team by a wide margin.
And when they did it was from their own 2-yard line. Like,
like TJ Edwards blitzed on like less than 1% of his snaps this year. And again, like that's not it's the Eagles defense was fine during the year, but in this game, let's change it up, adjust. Like that's exactly
it either he wasn't smart enough to adjust, or he didn't have his defense prepared to where he could actually call plays that they would know where to line up. And that falls back on him as well. So, like, there's just no situation that he's had this defense for 2 years. If he can't, throughout 20 weeks, install adjustments and install, like, halftime adjustments in terms of, all right, guys, we're going to go to the blitz heavy package. We're going to let this and this and this. If he doesn't have that in his repertoire, that's on him.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% on board in bringing someone new in, and basically take it from there. And
let's talk about the candidates. Okay, so the Eagles have interviewed 2 guys so far
for defense. Yeah,
for defense. So I think one is today. At the end of the day, I think Van Schoos is going to be in the building today, and then they've interviewed Jim Leonard. You've done some digging on Jim Leonard, so give me your thoughts so far on him.
Not too much. Just a couple of things that got thrown out there. Something from some things I found from the Wisconsin Badgers webpage in terms of what he's done throughout his time there. It seems like he is a much more of an aggressive type play caller. He'll dial up pressure from a 3-4 defense. Unlike Gannon, when he substitutes out for defensive backs, he'll take a defensive lineman off the field. He'll keep two linebackers on the field at all times. Whereas what we've seen a lot is a 5-man front with one linebacker, usually T.J. Edwards, throughout this season. That puts a ton of stress on that linebacker, and it doesn't allow them to blitz and move freely because they have to always read whatever the offensive line is doing. Because if they're pulling one guy, you only have one linebacker to respond to that. Whereas in a two linebacker system where you're substituting out a defensive lineman, you have more flexibility to blitz one of the linebackers and have the other guy adjust to whatever they're doing. So, T.J. Edwards was super productive as a linebacker under Jim Leonard, and he has a knack of producing linebackers who timed their blitzes a lot. They had a guy coming out the draft as well. Also, I think it was a 6th round pick or something like that. I forgot his name. Was in like a couple years.
Jack Sanborn was a linebacker for them last year. He was undrafted. He played really well for the Bears last year. I was just looking at some of the
Leo
guys.
Chanel as well, who plays for the Chiefs as well. Also under
he was a 3rd round pick last year.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, also absolutely got the most out of him. Nick Herbig, ring a bell.
No, Nick Herbig rings a bell. He is coming in this draft, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
it's Nate's brother.
Yeah, so Keanu Benton, who's a nose tackle there, he's going to go in like the 4th or 5th round. He got a lot out of him. I was just looking at like some of the players that have played. Like he hasn't got many 5-star recruits to Wisconsin. Like he's consistently played above his talent. And I was telling you before the show, I was really excited when I saw that they were interviewing Jim Leonard because I'm not an inside info guy. I don't speak to a lot of people. Like a lot of stuff is just my own opinions. But I know some people that worked for Wisconsin, played for Wisconsin, or write for Wisconsin. So when I saw this, I'm like, hell yeah, I can reach out to some people that know him. Spoke to 2 people so far, waiting on a couple more. One guy that's actually played against Wisconsin this year, who plays for Illinois football. I was looking; he was an offensive lineman. I was waiting to get his insight, but I haven't got that yet. But I spoke to 2 people so far, and like I tweeted one of the quotes directly. Jim would be a lot different than what they had in Gannon. Personally, I think would be a home run hire, is what this person said to me. So I heard nothing but good things in the short conversations I had with these 2 people. Again, you did more digging on the defensive schematic stuff, but like he's a 10-year NFL pro. Like I remember Jim Leonard as a Jets safety. Like that's kind of how I remember him. He also played for the Broncos, I believe. Can't remember where else he played.
I think he was around for a bit.
Yeah, he's played for a few teams. He was a productive NFL player. He actually went like once he retired, he knew he wanted to become a head coach. I can't remember. He was at a different school before Wisconsin. Then went to Wisconsin, took over as defensive coordinator after 1 year. So he's a high riser in the college ranks. To me, it just sounds like why not? Like get this guy in the building. Seems like he would be kind of a good mix-up. I
just think whenever I'm watching college football, actually there's not a lot. When I'll watch draft prospects when they come out for the draft, I'll single-handedly look at only them and not anything else. And whenever I see a defense that can allow college offenses throughout a 5-year span to 17.3 points per game,
very impressive.
Color me intrigued. And a 30.5% third down conversion rate. Those numbers over a 5-year period, they speak for themselves.
And I think they allowed 20.2 points this season. They weren't that good this year. He didn't have a lot of talent to work with. Like I think that was like 7th out of all like
the first 4 seasons were absolutely phenomenal, and then last year kind of drags it up.
Well, still 20.2 points per game allowed in Division
Still not bad.
Yeah, like I was looking at it was 20th in all FCS. I think it was like 7th in Division Ones. Like that's really, really good, especially considering how bad their offense was this year.
Yeah.
And like he hasn't had a lot of talent to work with. Again, it's so hard to judge these coordinator hires before it happens. But to me, he seems like a great candidate and a guy that I would be thrilled with to have.
At least maybe this is we'll regret this moving forward, but because a college coach coming into the NFL, you never know what you're going to get. Maybe like a big old mixed bag here, and calling plays in the NFL is a lot different. But there's there's an intriguing part of bringing in somebody new instead of like these recycled coaches that kind of gets brought
Yeah,
in and
for
then
sure.
up them down and all this kind of thing.
Mhm.
And we've had such a young staff with Philly for the last few years here, like Sirianni, Patullo, Steichen, Gannon, all these guys, like even Nick Rallis, who's now the youngest coordinator in the NFL, the former linebackers coach for the Eagles. Denard, DB's coach, also candidate for that promotion. Um, like they're still a young team, so and a young coaching staff, and I kind of like that moving forward as well.
So Nick Sirianni's 41, Jim Leonard's 40, and Brian Johnson, who we're all assuming is going to be the offensive coordinator, is 36. Brian Johnson's also a guy that like went through the college ranks. Like he's been around town in college. So having Leonard and Brian Johnson would be kind of a cool, in my opinion, coordinator duo. Like I'm all for it. Anything else on Jim Leonard before we move on to Vance Joseph?
Nah, let's get him signed.
Okay, support for today's episode comes from True Classic. As a people-driven brand, True Classic believes that the clothes you wear should make you feel confident and comfortable so you can show up as the best version of yourself every day. This is your one-stop shop for all your wardrobe essentials. The shirts have a premium fit that's tighter in the shoulders and biceps with an extra boost of confidence. From t-shirts and polos to activewear denim, button-downs, hoodies, joggers, box briefs, and everything between, they have everything you need. Time to upgrade your wardrobe today. Finally, a brand that keeps things consistent. True Classic is built and designed for a man's body, so no matter which product you buy, you can feel confident you'll get a premium fit that's consistent across all styles. Break up with your go-to shirt and make the switch to True Classic. Companies have been overcharging their customers for years. True Classic sells premium clothing without charging a premium price. High-quality clothing shouldn't cost a fortune. Get comfortable, get going, and upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic. Get 25% off at TrueClassic.com with code DOINK. Free shipping is included on all purchases over $100. 100% risk-free guarantee with a 30-day return policy. You can't go wrong. It looks good and feel good for a reason. It's True Classic. Okay. The other one that they have interviewed, like we already spoke about, is Vance Joseph. He's going to be coming today, I believe, to interview. What do you think about him?
Blitz Joseph, man. If you want a polar opposite of Jonathan Gannon, I mean, you'd be in for it with Vance. Unfortunately, with Vance and his consistent top 5 blitz rate in the NFL, almost always at 30% or higher, you don't necessarily get a very productive defense. It's his blitz rate is not correlated with pressure percentage put on a quarterback, and his DVOA numbers aren't really that great unless you're looking back all the way to his first 2 years with the Cardinals or his first year.
No, I think last year's DVO numbers weren't good. Other than that, they were. So 2022, this season, they finished 24th. It was a dumpster fire in Arizona, no matter how you want to put it. Offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball. They had a rash of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. That team was a hot mess. Okay, so of course, Vance Joseph has something to do with that. Cardinals fans were also not impressed with Vance Joseph with all this year. Take that for what you will. But like I remember, like on the Double Doing podcast, like for the previous 2 seasons, I was hyping up Vance Joseph a lot because I was super impressed with the defense that he put forth in 2021 and 2020, especially in 2021. They finished.
Those were also his 2 good years.
Yeah, he finished
2019. He was also below 20th.
Yeah. So 2021, he finished 6th in defensive DVOA, top 10 in both pass and rush defensive DVOA, which is really impressive. That defense didn't have a lot of talent. Like, can you name 3 starters on that defense? I can't. You had Budda Baker. Hassan Reddick was already gone at that point. There wasn't a lot going on that Arizona defense in 2021. They carried them to the playoffs. The Cardinals' offense was bottom 10 in DVOA, even with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and that whole squad. The defense was the reason that they played well. And in the playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams, it was the offense that fucked them over. Kyler Murray was terrible and just put them in bad situations. So I really liked Vance Joseph in 2021. In 2020, he was 10th in defensive DVOA, again, with not much talent. That was Hassan Reddick's last year. Reddick kind of had a breakout season. Like last season was awful there. And of course, he deserves some blame, but I don't think he's a bad candidate. Like I would be intrigued by him. I'm curious to see kind of what. It's funny, don't you think it's kind of weird that they're bringing in Leonard and Joseph, who are more aggressive? Then they're kind of going.
Yeah, especially because they said like they wanted to find something who are kind of like in the same defensive vein.
Yeah, this is not showing.
And you're bringing in these guys like what?
Yeah, very odd. I wonder who's like. I want to be in a defensive coordinator. I want to be a fly on the wall, and Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni interview so bad. I would love to hear what their questions are.
Yeah.
Anything else on Joseph?
No. Then we got Sean Desai.
Has he been like has he?
I'm not sure if they just had interest in him or they actually interviewed him. Hold on 1 second here.
I can pull up my work.
They requested an interview for him.
Okay, I didn't.
Request permission. They haven't had a formal interview yet.
He was the Bears defensive coordinator. I believe. I don't have any notes on him. We were going to focus on Leonard and.
Yeah, it hasn't not. It has not yet really seemed as if that whether or not this is a really like they haven't had their interview with him yet. That should say everything we need to know. Like Vance Joseph has 2 interviews lined up this week. One with Sirianni, one with Howie on 2 separate occasions. Jim has interviewed, right? That was today, right?
Jim interviewed, I think. So Jeremy Fowler broke it. He said they interviewed, was it yesterday?
Okay, yeah, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it kind of came out of nowhere. Like no one knew that they were going to talk to him. I was pretty excited when I saw Jeremy Fowler kind of tweeted nowhere. Eagles have interviewed former defensive coordinator Jim Leonard, so he tweeted that 3 hours ago. So it could have been yesterday, could have been today. Who knows?
Right. So quickly on Sean Desai, not that we have too much on him. He was a quality control coach for the Bears for a while. And he went to be a safety coach for them. Yeah. He's definitely from that same. Definitely from the same vein as if like Gannon, because he got influenced a ton by Vic as well. So definitely has some roots on there. Was the defensive coordinator 1 year for the Chicago Bears in 2021, a year where they ranked, I think it was around 16th or 13th or something in that range in DVOA as a defense. Came up and became an assistant head coach with the Seattle Seahawks last year. And I mean, if you're gonna go into a defense with a bunch of rookies contributing here, that's where like Desai has a ton of experience coming from the Seattle Seahawks this year, who basically they had 4 rookie starters throughout the year.
Greek Woolen on one side. I think they started 2 rookie. They had Kobe Bryant on the other side. They had a ton
exactly. I had a linebacker as well. I think who was also kind of new to the whole thing. Cody Barton was he? Yes. They had a bunch of guys in there as well. So another intriguing, another young guy rising up through the ranks. So he'll kind of like him. I think how he likes to be like a forefront guy on these things and bringing up new, kind of building his own network. Actually, kind of like so. I think we're looking at more. I think they're gonna get a formal interview with him as well. We'll see where that ends up. But this is totally gut feeling. Not like I have nothing to back up this, but I've got a feeling they want to go young and new at the defensive coordinator.
So what do you think about Denard Wilson? Because it sounds like I assume they would interview Denard Wilson first, and then kind of go external outside of that. They probably who knows if they've interviewed Denard Wilson and we just don't know about it. But they're going external candidates early and kind of getting off to a hot start with that. So I agree with you. It almost seems like they're not going to go an internal candidate here.
Yeah, and at this point, it also like if I'm not mistaken, most teams have already filled out their defensive coordinator spots.
It's the Broncos are the only other team that hasn't, I believe, and they're on Rex Ryan and Vance Joseph. Man, Rex Ryan would be a funny hire.
That'll be a character. Can you imagine having both Russell Wilson and Rex Ryan?
Like I put it in a tweet like it was like people were like ripping me in the comments like he's a smart defensive mind. Okay, he hasn't coached in 7 years, and he's been on ESPN. I hate his ESPN takes. And is he a smart defensive mind still? Who knows? Like, could it work? Maybe. Like, again, with these coordinator hires, it's so hard to judge right at the gate. But I just think it would be a ridiculous hire. And, like, just not having chaos in the building is what you want in Denver. And I just feel like Rex Ryan would be a chaotic hire. So, Philly basically stay away. Don't interview Rex Ryan. Sirianni.
I just had I have to totally circle back. This is a bad podcast, but I just had I had a thought that I wanted to get out there. Going back to the Jonathan Gannon and whether or not that he was told to get the Cardinals job and all this, and this report about Eagles offering like this high time contract money. 2 weeks ago after the 49ers game, Remember, he said, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying
Yeah, on
100%.
the
This is
field.
the on the field." Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Good through good, bad, or whatever. I'm staying. What if he knew he wasn't? Like after the Super Bowl, he was told
Maybe.
by Howie, "This shot, take the job with the Cardinals. You got to take this job.
I
You're
don't
not."
know. That's a reach. Like they were going to the Super Bowl, right? Like, do you fire your defensive coordinator before you're going to the Super Bowl?
No, 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 not before the Super Bowl. After the game, because
Ah,
after the 49ers game, he said, "I'm not going anywhere through good, bad, whatever." And they even said, like, you could have head coaching openings, like somebody could hire you right out there. He point blank said, "No, I'm not going anywhere."
yeah.
They lose the Super Bowl afterwards. Howie directly influenced him afterwards to stay in Arizona and
Well,
take the interview.
I think the him staying in Arizona is more of a procedural thing because I don't know if you're allowed to speak with candidates during Super Bowl week, right? Like I think Howie just had to be the middleman, if that makes sense. I
Yeah,
could be
maybe.
wrong there, but
I just think it's kind of coincidental, like how that whole bit like from Gannon directly before anything was so keen. I was like, I'm staying here, and then he wasn't.
yeah. No,
It's
it's
I'm just saying.
and you know what? Like
Let's get the tinfoil hats going.
and like in that article, like the way he made excuses about like not really excuses, like he apologized about like setting the cover zero blitz on that one play, like and he didn't have a press conference after the Super Bowl. He kind of pissed me off after like that entire, I guess basically from the second half of the Super Bowl up until now, he's been like he just hasn't
do
been a
we
great
have a
guy.
do we have a breaking news drop here? Do you have something like that?
I do not. What do you got?
Apparently, through Inside the Birds, the Eagles will attack Chauncey Gardner Johnson if they can't reach a long term deal.
Ooh, who reported that? Jeff Mosher.
Yeah, probably. It was Inside the Birds.
It makes sense, right? Why wouldn't you tag him? You don't let him hit for agency.
Yeah, sure. Also, that's kind of an interesting case there because Chauncey Gardner Johnson. So he comes from the Saints, where he didn't really play safety, deep safety at all. Like 5 to 10% of the snaps there. Otherwise, he was a slot cornerback. The money for slot cornerbacks is horrendously low compared to the top end market of the safeties. He played safety with Florida. He comes in here with the Eagles. And he misses what 3, 4, 5 games with the kidney laceration. But other than that, he played pretty well. He had some early hiccups, but he made up for it with big plays and interception. He comes back from his kidney laceration. He is much more physical. He's much more consistent in his play. But he's 24 years old. Like, and you can't expect him, his agent knows this as well, to be paid like a top 5 safety at the market as is right now. He's played one season, not even a full season. Actually, if you count the playoffs, I guess it's kind of adds up to a full season as a safety in the NFL. He did fine, but there is a learning curve in it. So I think that Chauncey and his agent as well knows that if he can take a safety type deal at the top 5, 6, 7 end market, he's going to get paid significantly more than he would have as a slot cornerback. He's going to continue to play as a safety, maybe say 3-year deal. If he continues to play safety and play at the level he's done this season, he's going to be paid top 3 type money at age 27. Remember, this is kind of the same age that the guys from the safety class this year, the Williams from Saints, the guy from Seattle, Darius Slay's good friend,
Quandre Diggs.
Quandre Diggs, he got paid as well as a 30-year-old. So like you have a bunch of these guys who this offseason got paid, they're in the top 5 market right now as safeties. They're 27 or older. So if Eagles can strike a deal with Chauncey Gardner Johnson, like a shorter end deal, 2-3 years, he'll have a massive payday when the whole league bumps up. I don't think he's going to be as expensive as people are kind of throwing out there. The Marcus Williams type, 17 and a half, 18 million per year. I think it's going to be more than that more moderate of 13 and a half, 14 at that top. That's like safety 6 around that area type money, and then have a second payday a little bit later.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, like he's 24, and the other thing is too, like if you're the Eagles, you can't let that talent leave the door. You can't let them that talent leave the door.
No.
They don't have a lot of young talent on that side of the ball. Like who are the young talent you got? You got Nicole Beatty and Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
Basically, with Josh Sweat, I guess you can add Hassan Reddick's gonna be 28 next year. Sonic still can have a couple good years, but like the franchise building pieces,
Yeah.
like J. Gardner Johnson is the piece, like
Yeah.
basically. So you can't let that guy out the door. Just quickly, I was looking up just the transition tag and franchise tag numbers. So the safety, he's $14.46 million.
Well, there you go.
Franchise tag him. And a transition tag is 11.8. So I think the transition tag works is the team can trade 2 first-round picks. Is that correct? Something like that?
Yeah,
So,
something like that.
Yeah,
it
so
rarely happens. I've never really. I can't think of one occasion that happened.
I think that the Ravens could transition take Lamar Jackson this year, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
So I would be all aboard. Like, if let's say they can't work on a long-term deal, 1 year at 14 million for J. Gardner Johnson is more than fine.
Yeah.
For next season.
So they have Derwin James paid at 27, Minkah Fitzpatrick paid at 27, Jamal Adams paid at 28, Harrison Smith is the top 4 at 34, Justin Simmons at 30, Budda Baker at 27, and then goes all the way down. Marcus Williams, 27 years old, Quandre Diggs, 30 years old, Jesse Bates, 26 years old. So like he's 24. Like he can get that big time payday, go up into the top 3 safety range at 27, 28, or whatever that is.
And I think he wants to be here. I don't think he wants to go anywhere.
I don't know if he wants to get his car stolen. He's got to get kind of like a clause in that contract. Whenever he gets a car stolen, the team has to replace it.
All right, man. This was awesome. I think we planned on 30 minutes. We're at 50 minutes. So we went way over time. But hey, anything else you got?
For an off-season podcast, we're going overtime.
Yeah, there you go. Anything else you want to get? Any other last thoughts?
Let's get out of here. Go watch some Jamar Gibbs tape now.
Is there any prospects that have caught in your eye, like that you're falling in love with quickly? I'm going to start my draft prep next week.
Devon Witherspoon, Illinois cornerback.
Yeah, baby.
He is not going to be there at 10. So if the Eagles want to avoid another type situation with J.C. Horn and Surtain, Asante Samuel, I guess you kind of put it. Nah, they had a good deal with Landon Dickerson instead there. If they don't want to get burnt in that top 10 cornerback range now, he is probably going to be a guy, from what I've seen so far, he's a guy I'd move up for to secure down. Gonzalez, I think, is intriguing as well. Like he's got some nasty to him. Joey Porter, not as intrigued about him right now. Maybe that'll change when I get some more tape down. I've been watching some of the cornerbacks here. Those are the top end guys that are being mostly talked about. Emmanuel Forbes is also a guy he's small. He's been projected in the lower end of the first round. I would hate it. I don't think he's going to be physical enough to play as much in the NFL. Not buying really into that. Devon I think it's how it's said.
Back at Texas A&M.
Yeah, exactly. That guy has
4.2. He's so fast.
He is super fast. Not even is he fast. Like he gets kind of a knock for his size. He'll run over people. He's been pretty consistent for what I've seen so far on these third down short situations. I think Bijan Robinson is an absolute blue chip player. I don't think the gap right now, this may be way too early, but I'm going to throw it out there. We'll see if it sticks.
Get some early tape.
I don't think the gap between Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and A-Chain is that big. Like they all three kind of do the same thing. Bijan is more balanced runner in between the tackles. Jahmyr Gibbs he's basically you can draft him with a wide receiver tack, and I wouldn't blink. Like that man is a route running freak. Like talking about disappointment of Quest Watkins, and like, are you overpaying? Not overpaying. Are you reaching for a running back? Well, you can basically put a kick returner, punt returner, wide receiver, and running back tag on him, and like he's weapon. Like just put that on Jahmyr Gibbs. A-Chain, you're drafting speed. Like he's a home run hitter, and I'm just going. Like you see this is one of my takeaways from the Super Bowl. You got to get a running back, like and the potential with a guy with a weapon next to Jalen Hurts that has that speed, because we saw against the 49ers, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, they were flat-footed so much when they played Jalen Hurts, like they were reading him and always a step behind. If you can get that combined with it, let's say Jason Kelce at center and Cam Jurgens at guard, like the mobility you have on offense with Jalen Hurts, one of those guys at running back, the phenomenal wide receivers, Dallas Goedert, like you win through offense while you transition a new defensive coordinator, new talent on defense, all that. You win by scoring more than the other team. Eagles can absolutely do that. Mic drop. It's
good stuff. Have you watched Tyree Wilson?
Oh, shit. What? Tyree? No, I haven't gotten to the edges yet.
Oh, you're going to love a Tyree Wilson. He's my favorite, like, realistic Eagles potential spot because I think he's going to go at 5. I don't see him getting past the Seahawks.
Is he Texas Tech, right?
Texas Tech, and like, he's better than Trayvon Walker, like last year. Like he reminds me a lot.
He's gonna be rising up the draft board.
Oh, like, I don't see him getting past 5 at Seattle. But hey, we'll see. But he's like him and Witherspoon are like like if you're at 10, you're running and you're taking them. Because the thing with Tyree Wilson, he's 23 years old when the season kicks off, a little bit raw. I'm an ageist when it comes to draft. I think you will remember this. I like guys that are 22, 21 years old. So 23 is a little bit on that old side, but
yeah.
So
you wouldn't be keen on Hinton Hooker or Stetson Bennett as the backup quarterbacks there in the later rounds.
No. That's why I was so against who's the defensive tackle that the Packers drafted? God, why is it not coming to my name? Devontae Wyatt.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He was 24 years old. It just never made sense for me that the Packers took him. Okay, we're getting way into the weeds here. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. Thomas and I will be back next week. We're going to play a little stay or go or undecided on all the Eagles free agents.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them. So we're going to go through every single one, what potential they could make, if they should keep them, what the impact of that will be. So make sure to tune to that. Another episode coming tomorrow on the Double Link Podcast. We are starting our off-season wish list for every single team, what every team should do in the offseason. We're starting with the AFC East. That episode will be coming you tomorrow. Tons of great offseason content. Make sure to check out our sponsors, True Classic and BetterHelp. Make sure to follow us both on Twitter, Brenden and Thomas on Twitter. Make sure to subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you later.